to our special July 28th Board of Education meeting. I need a motion to go into public session. Second. All in favor? Aye. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. To the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. So nice to be back here at Washington Street School. So I'm so happy that the board could join us for this special meeting, and would like to just say that Ms. Hoffman is joining us via the Zoom call. She had a prior commitment prior to this meeting being scheduled. So thank you, Ms. Hoffman, for joining us as well. Tonight's meeting is an opportunity for us to share with the board our procedures and planning for September 2020, as well as recommendations that we are making moving forward. Before I do that, I want to just kind of do a summary. I've done this at a number of online meetings, but I think it's important to put it into context where we are and where we're going. So just a summary of key dates and reopening guidance. So again, March 13th seems like a lifetime ago. All the schools in our district were closed. March 16th, we started phase 1 of our continuity of instruction plan. We moved into phase 2, March 23rd, phase 3, March 30th. On May 1st, Governor Cuomo closed all K-12 schools for the remainder of the school year. May 4th, we implemented phase 4 of our plan. On June 5th, Governor Cuomo announced that in-person special education programs would be allowed. On June 15th, all the custodial staff returned full-time to all of our school buildings. July 6th, all of our 12-month employees returned to work. We also started our ESY program at John Street School with students, our staff, and our teachers. And that program has been working fantastically. It's been a fantastic program, I should say, I'm sorry. And I really want to thank all of our teachers and our aides and the administrators, Dr. Taylor and her team, Dr. Mike, Mariquin, for making that program happen. And I think it's fantastic for our students. And we're also offering virtual options for students that need that as well. On July 13th, the New York State Department of Health released guidance to the field. We had been waiting for that for some time, followed by July 16th, when the New York State Department of Education released their guidance. The next date is critical because you'll see July 31st, all districts must submit a plan for reopening. So as you can see, they did not give districts a lot of time to put together the plans. However, the good news is we have been working long before we got the guidance with our committees and our teams to kind of prepare for this moment and then use the guidance to make adjustments as needed. And again, I do want to thank our administrators who have joined us today. Our 3 principals are in the room with us. I know you can't see them, but they did join us, and they have been, along with our assistant principals and our assistant superintendents, Dr. Taylor, instrumental in putting this plan together. The guiding principles for planning, number 1, safety and well-being of students and employees. That was critical, obviously, as we were putting our plans together. Equity and accessibility to learning for all students, and maintaining the high-quality instruction that families have come to know in Franklin Square. We are an unbelievable school district. I am so proud of what we have accomplished. We know that, this spring, we were in crisis mode, and our teachers stepped up and worked really hard. We understand that, in the fall, if we are required to be virtual at any time, that needs to change in terms of the program that was offered. But for what was put together in the time frame that we had, And being able to move from phase 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, I'm really proud of our teams and the work that we did over those few months. Just to kind of share, this reentry task force has included small committees, large committees, again, includes the cabinet, includes the district administration, teachers, bargaining units, the FSTA, our aides, our monitors, parents, PTA, the library was involved in planning, the fire department, the police department, and also all of the component superintendents. We've been having regular meetings to discuss our plans and make sure that although we may not be in line with everything, we are certainly planning together and looking at the guidance together and making sure that we understand what we need to put forward to our communities and to make sure that we're as close as possible in our planning. Again, every community is different and we may not be able to be lockstep all the way. So we sent out a survey to our community asking a number of questions. I'm going to just kind of walk the board through those survey results. We had 1,208 families complete the survey. So that is almost, a 90+% completion rate, which is great. We asked a question that if the district were to return in September with all students attending, would you send your children given the current conditions? As you can see, 49.4% yes, 22.2% no, and 28.4% maybe. Then we asked the question in a different way. We asked if we were to do a hybrid model where 50% of the students attending in person at one time, and 50% would be learning at home, and then the next day or morning, afternoon, or whatever model hybrid was chosen, it would switch. And we asked, would you send your child under those conditions? And again, 13.1% no, still about 28% plus maybe, and 58% yes. So the maybes didn't really shift all that much. The no's were reduced a little bit, and the yeses obviously increased slightly. Important question, childcare. We know childcare is a challenge. So we asked if remote instruction or a hybrid model were used, would childcare be an issue? And 57.3% said yes. We wanted to know the experiences with virtual learning and what activities children found most beneficial. Not surprising that Google Meets in small groups received the most interest, and people found that most beneficial, 70.7%. And then you can see Google Meets with the entire class, 31, video voice instruction, 37, etc. As we're planning for revamping our virtual learning, because again, the governor and Department of Health and Department of Education require that we have 3 plans. We must have a plan for virtual learning, a plan for hybrid, and a plan for in-person, regardless of what we as a district want to put forward. So we wanted to know how much time parents felt was most appropriate for their children to be involved in direct instruction with a classroom teacher. And we explained what that meant in the survey. 36.1% said 2 hours of direct instruction was most appropriate, and then kind of an even spread between the 1 hour, the 3 hours, and the more than 3 hours. Are you planning to send your children on the bus in September? 62% no, 14.4% maybe, 23.6% yes. 36% don't use transportation, 14.7% would be willing to drive their child, and 49.3% would not drive their child, and 49.3% said they would drive their children. And then we asked reopening concerns. So how concerned are you about, right? So social distancing, 1 being the least concerned, 5 being the most concerned, about 47.8%. Wearing of masks, 53.3% in the 5 range. Sanitation of buildings, this was seemed to be the most concerning to people, 64%. Taking of temperatures, 35.2% of the 5. Restroom protocols and procedures, 53.7. And enforcement of protocols, 55.4. School lunch, 43.1. How often do you anticipate your child utilizing the school lunch program? 51% sometimes, 25% never, and 23 always. We asked about virtual parent training. If we offered that this year, would you participate? So 49.2, almost 50% said they would. Parents would, and 33.8% maybe. So that's a great number, and we definitely will be looking to start that this summer. All classroom teachers are going to be focusing on SEL. It's social emotional learning is critical. Students have been home for a long time. They need support when they come back, but we wanted to know if any children would need additional support. And certainly it seems that many of our students do, 16.7% yes, and 27.2% maybe. In terms of communication, we try to communicate as regularly as we can. We understand that we can always do better. We wanted to know whether the frequency of communication with the teacher was sufficient. So 79.7% said yes. From the district administration, 81.2% said yes. And from the building administration, 80.1% said yes. So again, good numbers, but we certainly can continue to improve. And now that we have the information that we need, the information will be coming out even more regularly to parents. So now I'd like, with the board's permission, to talk about our recommendations regarding our reentry plan. This is preliminary, and even when we submit it to the state on Friday, and again, the plan is due on Friday, but it is evolving and it's going to constantly be updated on our website. And as new practices and protocols need to be updated or changed, the plan will be changed. Again, going back to the survey, cleaning, disinfecting, sanitizing protocols seem to be of great concern to the community. So I want to talk a little bit about what that's going to look like in the fall. Schools will be thoroughly cleaned on a daily basis using the electrostatic sprayers. So those are the sprayers that can spray in just seconds an entire space. And within a minute or two, it's dry and ready to use again. So if we do need to, spray in between classes or spray materials or, that can happen very, very quickly with these new electrostatic sprayers. And I certainly want to thank Dr. Hennessy, who I think has been spending a tremendous amount of her time doing research, trying to get all of this material. It is not easy to find, as you can imagine. Businesses, schools across the country are trying to get this equipment and the resources, and she's been fantastic at being able to find those companies that are selling it and getting as many as we can into the hands of our staff. We will be using EPA-approved disinfectants, and they're proven against COVID. Just the constant, frequent disinfection and cleaning of frequently touched surfaces. So the door handles, the stairway rails, the light switches, the soap dispensers, all of those need to be cleaned daily, but they also need to be cleaned throughout the day. And so our custodial staff has been working with Ms. Hennessy to create those protocols and procedures to be able to do that. They're also following written schedules throughout the day, and all of this is documented as required by Department of Health regulations. So, whereas before it certainly was done, but now every time you change the soap or every time you, go into a space, you're documenting that. Outdoor spaces will be cleaned on a regular basis. We are discouraging the sharing of items that are difficult to clean, and we are removing items that we can't spray, in a classroom, just because it doesn't make sense to have it at this point in those rooms. And so, rugs and other toys that can't be cleaned easily, those are going to be removed until things change and we can use them again. Each child, needs to have their own set of supplies, textbooks, workbooks. We are purchasing art supplies for each student in order to avoid sharing as much as possible. Adequate ventilation plays an important role in mitigating this virus. So Ms. Hennessy and the custodial team, our head custodians, are going through the buildings, making sure that everything is operating properly. Windows and doors will be kept open to increase circulation, as long, again, as it doesn't pose a health risk or safety concern to our students or teaching staff. But they're going through, they've developed a written schedule and plan to replace all the ventilator and air conditioning filters. And they're also, again, documenting when those are being cleaned. The drinking fountains, they were always cleaned and sanitized, but they're going to be cleaned and sanitized more frequently. And we are looking at whether we are going to reduce the number that we are have an active use in a building. There is a minimum that you have to have in each building, but we will try to minimize in order to make sure that we're able to frequently clean those. And certainly we would encourage students to bring water with them as much as possible, or use the water filling units versus the other water fountains. So healthy hygiene practices are critical as we work to mitigate and educate about this virus. Staff, students, and parents will receive health education training, right? So part of that will be done in the summer. That may be through written materials, certainly through posters, in the classroom, and just talking about hand and respiratory etiquette in order to maintain that kind of safe school environment. Proper healthy hygiene that we've always taught, but we're going to be reinforcing that, right? Correct hand position, where to sneeze, wearing of a mask. We're going to be ensuring that adequate supplies are available to support that. So the soap, no touch trash cans, hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol. And then again, I go back to the signs that are highly visible in common areas, just those constant reminders to everyone about those practices and procedures. Each classroom will have its own sanitation station. So hand sanitizer. We have not had a hand washing sink in every classroom, but we will come September. Soap in every space, paper towels, gloves, and disposable face masks. If somebody needs to change their mask out, they don't have one, extra masks will be available in the classrooms. Throughout the day, teachers are going to be having frequent hand washing breaks, in addition to washing hands, before and after meal times. And hand sanitizer will be available in all common areas. Social distancing and masks is another area mentioned in the Department of Health guidelines. So to the greatest extent possible, students and adults will remain 6 feet from one another. And when that's not possible, we need to wear masks and engage in frequent hand washing and hand hygiene practices. So in spaces where it's difficult for students to remain 6 feet apart, they recommend dividers, I will say, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in the presentation. We are planning to purchase dividers for every student desk, as well as for critical areas throughout the building, main office, front desk, certain office spaces, small group specials, etc. All students must wear a mask when entering, seated, or exiting the school bus, unless they're medically unable to tolerate one. And again, we'll talk about transportation a little bit later. All students must wear a mask on school grounds, when entering the school building, in the hallways, going to the restroom, moving around the classroom, or any other time. Students cannot maintain a social distance of 6 feet or more. And students and staff are strongly encouraged to wear a mask at all times. Frequent mask, and again, that's per the Department of Health guidelines. Frequent mask breaks will be provided throughout the day. Students will not be required to wear masks during lunch, and while working independently at their desks. And the district certainly will maintain adequate stock of the PPE and perform periodic inventory analysis. And we're doing that already on a regular basis as we're going through our ESY program this summer. We're realizing how much we're using and then making adjustments, ordering more supplies in order to make sure that we have enough on staff. Certainly, some PPE can be used multiple times, some cannot, depending on the circumstance. We are going to be supplying students with cloth masks. However, we will also have the paper PPE masks available should a student need it. So student desks in the classrooms are going to be spaced 6 feet apart, and they will be faced in the same direction rather than towards each other. So, most of our classrooms for the last couple of years, collaborative learning, the desks have been facing each other, small groups. Right now, for the time being, we're going to have to change that, and they're all going to have to face in the same direction, sort of the old traditional rows. And making sure that we have, again, those dividers around the desks and making sure that they're 6 feet in all directions. In order to accomplish this, we're also having to remove extra furniture in the room. So bookcases, wall fixtures, those have to be taken out in order to accommodate the extra space that we will need to maintain 6 feet in all directions. We're also using things like painter's tape and posters. I know that the principals have been looking at purchasing stickers for the hallways, outside bathrooms. They'll be cute. They're going to have the school logo, but they will be great reminders for the students to stay 6 feet apart, what that looks like, where you should stand, and that's important. It'll also illustrate traffic flow, proper movement, etc. So we are required to have daily temperature checks of all staff and students. So any student or staff member who does not complete the required daily acknowledgement will be required to have a temperature check at school. Parents, legal guardians of students are going to be asked to complete a questionnaire every single day regarding the temperature check, and most likely to ensure the absence of symptoms, because it's the same form that we're going to be using. Staff will also be required to complete this questionnaire. We're already using this now in our buildings this summer. You just kind of fill it out, it puts a color up for the day, and you just kind of show it as you enter the building. Teachers are going to be trained, staff will be trained to check in with students, asking them how they're feeling, observing their overall wellness, and we'll have kind of a protocol. We will have a protocol that we'll be working with Dr. Marino, our district doctor, on to be able to identify when a student may need to go down to the nurse because symptoms are being observed. Any visitor that enters the building is subject to a temperature check and must fill out an online questionnaire. So maybe a paper questionnaire, but it'll definitely be a questionnaire. The school administrators, nurses, our healthcare providers will relocate anybody who has COVID-19 symptoms to an isolation room. So we will have an isolation room in every one of our buildings, and that will be only for those that are exhibiting symptoms or have a fever. And no one can enter the building when their temperature is greater than 100 degrees. So again, we will be reminding our staff as well as parents and guardians, if your child has a fever, please do not send them to school. It is critical that they stay home, and certainly a fever of 100 degrees or greater, they are going to go right to the isolation room, and they're going to have to wait for a parent or guardian to pick them up. And that is required by the regulations as well. Non-essential visits to the school, so this is visitors, will be limited. We're not going to have the same visits that we've had in the past, reading to a class. That's going to have to be done virtually for the time being. Grandparent Day will be done virtually for the time being. Virtual field trips, virtual events for the time being. And certainly no outside groups will be allowed to use the buildings at this time. So that doesn't include, Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and others that may use the buildings after school, because we do need to make sure that our custodial staff is able to focus on the task at hand and making sure that every room is sanitized, that every bathroom has everything it needs, and that we can maximize resources. Outside fields certainly will be open to permits, as long as social distancing is in place, and there will be a sign off for that. Transportation is a challenge, I'm not going to lie. We have to modify our procedures to ensure that we are able to maintain social distancing. As you can imagine, we transport a lot of students. Oftentimes, our buses have a full 60 passengers on those buses. And so, we're going to need to change those protocols. But before I get to that, I just, again, Department of Transportation staff, same, health protocols they have to do before they arrive at work. They're going to be required to wash their hands before and after each run. They'll be equipped with PPE, face shields, and disposable gloves. And anytime that they, at any time, have to, let me repeat that. Gloves will be worn anytime a member of the transportation staff has to have direct physical contact with a child. So if they have to help them with their seatbelt or anything like that, they have to have gloves on. And per regulation, again, this is not a district decision. This is the Department of Health regulations and Department of Education regulations. Hand sanitizer is not permitted on the buses. So it will be available at the transportation depot for students, for staff, but not on the bus. And we will have sanitizer available for students upon entering the building. Students or guardians will be required to show the bus driver the health screening results. All students, again, we mentioned this earlier, they must wear a mask when they're getting on the bus, when seated on the bus, and when exiting the bus. Only one student can be seated per row, and only siblings can sit together. We're going to try, when the weather is 45 degrees or above, we'll make sure that the bus windows are open, the roof hatch is opened, and increase that ventilation on the bus. But again, that is a requirement in terms of the masks from the time students walk on to the time they leave the bus.
Dr. Bloom, just to go back to bullet number 1. So the survey is going to be on an app.
Correct. So the survey will be on an app that parents can complete on the iPad. And then they'll be able to show the iPad screen as they're entering the bus.
So a student or a parent has the ability to show their
correct, yes. As I mentioned, this is going to be a huge challenge because we normally transport 60 students per bus, and we're now limited to a maximum of 24. If we do have a student that can't wear a mask, then there has to be 6 feet of distance, so it could be 21 students on a bus. So we are going to, again, per the guidelines, ask parents if they are willing to decline transportation. And so parents will be sent a form, again, this is our recommendation, asking if they would like to decline transportation for the 2021 school year. We're going to ask that this be completed by August 12th to allow us to determine the number of runs we will need to get all students to school. Those runs and the number of runs we need to do will determine how many shifts we need in order to get all of our students to school. Obviously, if everybody is taking the bus and we have everybody coming to school, it's going to take at least 3 or 4 arrival times in order to get everybody to school. School lunch and recess. We'll continue to provide a lunch program that complies with the child nutrition program, but we're going to have lunch in the classroom. And lunch times will be staggered to reduce the overcrowding in restrooms. I think we've talked about this already, but they will be 6 feet apart when students are eating. They're going to have the dividers on at their desk. So obviously they're going to be able to not have their masks on. But all buildings will be, peanut free because we can no longer have a peanut free table or, an allergy table. So we're going to ask that parents not send in any meals or snacks made with peanuts. There may be some other exceptions that we'll have to address, but right now, certainly peanuts are top of the list. There will be a no sharing policy in the classrooms, and this will be strictly enforced. So we will have food available for students if they forget snack or obviously lunch. We're going to make sure that students are fed. When weather permits, students are going to be able to have outdoor recess. We're not going to be able to have the sports and the physical games that we've had in the past, but there's going to be lots of activities that they can do socially distanced, and they will be able to use the playground as well. Again, there'll just be certain rules in place that have to be followed. So now let's talk about school schedules. So I just want to go back to the state's requirement. The state is requiring that we submit a plan. So for those of you listening in and the board, when we put our final plan together, even though we may be talking about 1 or 2 models tonight, we are required to have all of the models in our plan. So we are going to propose a hybrid model. We are going to propose a in-person, everybody comes to school model and a virtual model in our written plan. But what we are proposing tonight is that should the governor allow us to return, and he's going to make the decision by August 7th, we would like to bring all students back in September. We believe that we can do it. We believe we can do it with social distancing. It will require some changes, which I'll talk about, but we believe that our team has been able to put together a plan that makes sense, that is safe, and that will allow all students to return. So each kindergarten through 6th grade class will be maxed at 18 students. And even with those students, again, there will be 6 feet between all of those students in all directions. Grade level sections will receive instruction from a classroom teacher and or a reading teacher for the day. And all the teachers within a grade level will be implementing the same lessons, but providing differentiation for their students. There'll be lots of opportunities, if the weather permits, for teachers to take their children outside. And we're going to work with the principals to provide space outside the building where teachers will be able to, throughout the day, go outside, whether it be to play or read a book or do a writing lesson or draw. But there'll be lots of those, built in to the day, again, as long as weather permits. I do need to say with this model, we must stagger arrival and dismissal. There is no way to have everybody in school and have everybody arrive at the same time and everybody leave at the same time. So this means that whenever, we, assuming this is the plan that we move forward with, students need to be dropped off at the designated time, not before, not after, and students can't remain on school grounds once dismissed. They have to leave so that the next group can dismiss and not have to worry about that overcrowding. So it's really, really critical that we keep to those times. And we know that that is going to be challenging for our parents, especially our working parents, parents that work far away. But we have no choice. If we want to go with an in-person model, it's the only way to do it. Otherwise, we would have to go with a hybrid AB day model. Does the board have any questions regarding? Okay. Pre-K is a little different. Pre-K, we are proposing a hybrid model. Right now, we have 18 students in each pre-K class, and as you can imagine, trying to socially distance with 18 4-year-olds in a classroom while you are first teaching them about play, and working together, and learning about school and getting introduced, that is quite challenging. So we are proposing that students be assigned to a Group A or Group B cohort. That pre-K students will attend school 2 days per week. So we haven't kind of decided what that would look like in terms of being Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but definitely 2 days in a row, followed by 2 days in a row for the next group. Classes will be capped at no more than 9 students. And then 1 day per week will be virtual for all students. We cannot offer a virtual model, but any parent who would like to participate in virtual only for the pre-K program can have their child participate on the virtual day. And when students are not in class, activities and resources will be provided to parents for home. So So that is our recommendations for pre-K.
Dr. Bloom, that virtual day will be consistent.
Yes, it will be the same day of week, same day of the week every week. Yes, the schedule will remain the same, and just again for consistency for parents for work schedules, we feel that that's very important.
And if it falls on a holiday or a day off, it just goes to the next week.
That's why we're looking at the schedule closely to determine the day that we should assign as the virtual day. So one of the proposals that the principals and the administration have talked about is making the virtual day Monday, so this way kids don't miss out during the week. And then to talk about the virtual learning option, we do know that there are parents who have children who can't come to school because of medical conditions, or they may live with someone who's at severe risk of either getting COVID or high-risk complications to COVID-19. Or we may have parents who are just not comfortable at this point sending their children to school. And so we are recommending to the board that we give parents the option to sign up for virtual learning. And so virtual learning and the model that I'm going to talk about is no different than the model that we would use if we had to shut down for a day, a week, a month, or longer. So it will be the same model. The only difference is those that sign up for virtual learning will be assigned a teacher, and then those that are in a class that are attending school, if they have to shut down the next morning, their classroom teacher would become their virtual instructor. But the schedule would be the same. Attendance will be taken and is required by the Department of Education now. So participation is mandatory for parents that choose this model. So, you know, again, we were very flexible at the end of last year, and some students log on sometimes, but not, you know, all the time. If you're choosing this model, you know, again, assuming that we move forward with this plan, we would be taking attendance every day, and it would be no different than attending school. So if you're not going to be attending, you know, we need a call to let us know that it's going to be a sick day. Students will receive at a minimum 2 hours of direct live instruction with a classroom teacher per day. That doesn't mean that's the only live instruction, that's direct classroom instruction. So that's your math lesson, your reading, your ELA, social studies, science, etc. Students will be assigned independent work, group work, project-based learning, and additional support through small group instruction. And then the opportunity to participate in special areas, so art, music, physical education, and library. So it is a virtual learning school. Those that choose this option will get a virtual learning school. So we are going to, again, our proposal is that we would run an in-person school where anyone who wants to come in would be able to do so, and an online school, basically, for as long as we need to do that, where students would be able to do this from home. We believe that parents should have a choice. And so again, assuming we move forward with this plan, there would be a form that would be sent to parents, and we need this to determine staffing and class sizes. So we would send the form out this week, and parents would basically have to tell us whether they are sending their children in person or they're sending their child to the virtual program. And we really need parents to commit through the first trimester, so that's November 24th. We understand that we're asking a lot, but please understand, you know, that as we kind of move through this, we're putting a lot of resources into making sure that parents can choose the option that's best for their family. And so in order to staff this and make sure that we have the staffing in school as well as online, it really is important that parents commit for the first trimester. But we do know that things happen. If a student needs to return prior to the end of the first trimester, I need to be clear that we may not be able to return them to their home school. So if they're a Washington Street family and they are doing the virtual school option and need to return sooner than November 24th, it is possible that that child will be assigned to John Street School in order to accommodate that request. So we ask that as you know, best as you can if parents are choosing that option. And again, assuming we move forward with this, that it's through the first trimester. We will be offering this through the whole school year. And the deadline, again, I wish we could make this later, but August 12th is going to be the deadline for submitting that school choice form if we move forward, just because we have to create classes, we have to determine staffing. There's a lot of work that goes in. We are normally done with staffing and with classes by this point. And we're holding off in order to, number one, we wanted to find out what the guidance was going to be. We wanted to make sure that we could put together a plan that was right for our community and that allowed people this opportunity to choose to either have their kids come to school or virtual. And so our plan is to work the next 2 days on the state reentry plan, to have that posted on our website by Friday and to submit that to the Department of Health as well as the Education Department, and also to send that out to the community so that they have that information along with all of the forms. So again, that transportation form as well as the school choice form. And we would need that in by the 12th, so this way we can make all of the arrangements that we need to make sure that we have a fantastic 2021. I am confident with our staff, with our administration, with our cabinet, and with our amazing teachers. We are going to have an unbelievable educational opportunity, regardless of whether somebody chooses in person or virtual. And so with that, I will, ask if the board has any questions.
I have a question, Jared. I've heard from a lot of different parents that they're concerned that their kid would be sitting at their desk for 6 hours, 6-7 hours. Is there a plan for that to get them moving around, things like that?
Yes. So the question was just in terms of parents concerned about their children being in the classroom for extended periods of time, especially the extended school day. And so if weather permits, they're going to be going out of the classroom outside with their teacher, as well as recess, as well as phys ed, as well as other opportunities that will come up throughout the day. And we'll have lots of opportunities for stretch breaks, for getting up, going to the bathroom, if they have to move around the classroom, those opportunities as well. We'll be doing other, stretching and other, exercises that you can do at your desk, as well as, movement when there's space provided. So I understand the concern, and certainly it's more than it would be in a typical year. Students typically leave their room to go to art. They leave their room to go to the lunchroom. They leave their room to go to, recess. They go to assemblies. That is going to happen in the classroom because we can't have the mixing of classes as we have in the past. So there will be less movement, but certainly lots and lots of opportunities in the classroom to take those stretch breaks, to take mask breaks, and also, again, to get out of the classroom as much as we possibly can.
And there's an opportunity for parents to ask questions, right, after this meeting? And
yes, so in terms of parents asking questions, what we're going to do is the school choice form will have a space on the bottom where parents can submit questions and comments. And so that would be the best place to send those questions in. But also, I know parents have been emailing me directly. They've been calling me with questions. They call their principals. I would encourage them to do that, to call their administrators with specific questions. And also the survey that we sent out, we received probably 100, 120 plus questions. And I believe most of the questions were answered in this presentation, or if it was not, it will certainly be in the plan that we put on the website on Friday.
So you indicated that there is an exception for the mask rule when a child has a medical condition, and I think it also says emotional condition.
Yes.
Fair to say that a note from a treating doctor will be necessary?
Yes. So Yes, so any student that cannot medically tolerate a mask or for emotional reasons cannot wear a mask, a note would be required from a doctor. That will go to our school district physician, just like any other request that comes in. He will evaluate it, he will talk to their doctor and make a determination.
So Dr. Bloom, if a child is in school and then we have to go virtual, the next day, will they start with their teacher and also like whatever specials they were supposed to have and everything?
Yes, so so the beauty of this plan, number one, having the virtual school allows us to get things in place. But anytime we are required to go virtual, whether it be for a day, a week, a month, the following day, so if it's Tuesday and Tuesday night, we send out a school messenger saying that tomorrow will be virtual, they are logging on the next day at 8:55 with their teacher, and that's when the day starts. And they will have a schedule that they will get at the beginning of the year that they will follow in the event that we go virtual. So they'll have that schedule in advance.
Oh, great.
Again, we don't want to miss a beat. We want to be able to pick up. We don't want to waste a day. So everybody will be trained. Even those that are not teaching online in the fall will receive training on teaching virtually in the fall. So every teacher, and we are requesting that we push the start date. So I believe we were starting school on September 2nd. We're asking the board if we can start on September 8th to provide us with extra professional development days. There is a tremendous amount of professional development that needs to be done in terms of identifying symptoms, working with the staff on making sure that we have protocols and procedures for sending kids to the nurse, isolation room, but also curriculum and making sure, where are we starting when we come in September and how are we assessing students where they're at and making sure that teachers have the training that they need for virtual learning in the event that we have to go virtual, making sure all the students have all the resources and tools that they need, any new tools that are coming out. The other thing I didn't mention is we are looking at whether sixth grade for this year, whether we don't departmentalize. We have departmentalized for the last 2 years in Franklin Square. That is something that we're looking at. Just because we don't want to have that constant contact of teachers moving around, if at all possible. So that's something that we will share with the board soon in terms of recommendations. But at this point, the recommendation seems to be that it would be best if we did not do that. And so that will also make it easier in terms of virtual, because the following day they're starting with one teacher. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bloom. I just want to take a minute. I feel like between Franklin Square and working with Mr. Leader and the Sewanee team and then my own district, it's definitely not an easy task to put together a reentry plan. And I have to thank you, Dr. Bloom, and your administrative team, central administration, the teachers, and your committee for putting together what looks like a really robust and a great proposal. So to the community, I'm definitely encouraging all of our families to be on the lookout for those emails, to please make sure that you fill them out and you abide by the timeline. And we have a great team of administration. In my experience here, when you email them, you have a question, they get back to you quickly. Dr. Bloom is always available. So to all the families out there, my public service announcement is to stay away from Facebook if you have any questions, and to please go directly to the school district with any questions or concerns, because that's where you're going to get the most accurate and up-to-date information. And I thank you for putting so much time and energy into what's a really solid plan or proposal.
Thank you, and thank you to the board for the support and I think the work that we've done. And I do once again want to thank the committee and our incredible administrators, teachers, and staff. I know I've said it before, but I'm going to say it once more. I am confident that we have a solid plan that is going to provide any parent who wants in person to have an unbelievable experience for their child next year, And the same is true for any parent who chooses the virtual option. We will provide your child with a fantastic virtual school experience. So again, thank you to the board and to everyone who has been working really tirelessly round the clock to make this happen, especially Ms. Hennessy, Ms. Gallagher. I know I email and text at 11 o'clock at night. Ideas come to my head. I don't sleep anymore. Constantly thinking about, safety and ideas for new curriculum ideas. And I just want to thank them and again, our administrative team. So thank you.
There's no other questions from the board. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll see everyone next week at our August 5th board meeting. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, folks.